Hello, beautiful being. Right here on my Facebook. Thank you for coming in. So, soul purpose. This is like probably one of the most researched questions. It probably hits one of the highest ranks in the search engines. It's also a topic I feel that is so hyped up. Everybody wants to know their soul purpose, right? Like everybody's looking for it, searching for it, trying to figure it out. What could it possibly be? And this is a bit like actually walking inside the forest and asking where the trees are. It's really one of those things because our soul purpose is so deeply enmeshed in our fabric of life. It is so close to us that most of the time we actually miss it. Looking for it, we miss it. How is that even possible? And therefore, it's also one of my absolute favorite topics to speak about because I really feel that there is so much power in the revelation of our soul purpose, right? Because the soul purpose really isn't something that you find, because you open the box and, oh, there it is. The soul purpose is actually occurring through a revelational experience. And it's never like set in stone, as in you do this one thing and then boop, your soul purpose arrives. We cannot order it on Amazon. As much as we would put it in the search engine, we cannot actually get our soul purpose to be delivered to us this way. It's got to be a revelation. It moves through us. It's an expansive experience. We feel the garment and we kind of grow into it through life. So I really desire to actually take you down the rabbit hole of my life's evolution and what happened. What is it that made me realize, oh my goodness, that's my soul purpose, right? What were the stepping stones? Because the truth is, like, if you're actually new in my world, let me introduce myself. And if you've been here a while, then I'm so grateful that you're here. Thank you for watching and being here. So I'm Lizzie Butterfly. I go also by Elizabeth. I do love Lizzie Butterfly as a name. It's also now become my branding name because it actually reflects the soul essence of me. It reflects so many things. And if you stay to watch until the end, it will become clear to you why that is such a brand name to me. And why it's so on point with all the things that I want to tell you. Because, like, my life was not set up for success, right? Like, I was born into a small, tiny little village in the middle of the mountains in Portugal. I was supposed to have a very mundane life. I was going to just grow up, probably get married, have a couple of kids, and spend most of my time in nature. But from very young, I was literally pulled out of my nest. And this is really a pattern I feel that has come up for me, where I literally had to start my life over from scratch from very, very young. So, my parents had to actually move countries because there was an economical crisis back then in Portugal. It was very difficult to make ends meet each month. And so they decided that they were going to go abroad and leave me and my younger brother with my grandparents for a temporary period. But then what actually happened is that they ended up, like, my mother actually ended up taking me to Germany because she was an au pair, and then she started working for a family, and she was literally, working in a family, and she took both of us with her. And it was a very difficult integration because the young boy that she was looking after was super jealous, and he didn't get on with us at all, and he didn't like girls. So already then, there I was with my mom, and yet in a different country where I didn't understand the language. I had no idea how to get on with him. And and so I came back to Portugal after a while, and then my parents moved to Luxembourg, which is where, we settled for the rest of my childhood and teenage years. And what happened there again, rupture, back into a new country, a completely new language. And, Luxembourg, if you don't know it, it's actually a very multicultural country. So most people speak 3 or 4 languages like that. It's just, it's normal. So I ended up needing to learn all of these languages to even just get on in the normal school setting. So there I was, 6-year-old little Lizzie trying to figure a way out through life. And, literally that impacted my life so much in such a way that I adapted. I just naturally adapted. I adapted to the languages. I fit in. I learned to fit in quickly. I learned to communicate with people, although I didn't know how to communicate. Like, I didn't use language. I was just using different things to get the communication across. And then later again, this rupture happened again when I actually moved from Luxembourg to Toulouse in the south of France to go study dance. So, and from then I went to London. I spent 8 years in London, and from London I went on a world trip completely on my own, by myself. Came back to Luxembourg to settle in, and then I was working for a company for 3 years that got me to travel quite a bit as well. So I've literally had this revamping and this lifestyle completely changed all over, and starting everything from scratch at least 7 times in my life. So I absolutely understand the anxiety. I absolutely understand, the shape-shifting that occurs in our being when we are being ruptured from the thing we know and we have to go into the complete unknown. And it seems as life led that as a gift for me on my path, although it often didn't feel like that. For sure, there was some really difficult moments where, not only the language barrier, but also the cultural barrier and the different things that I had to learn, those subtle things, like I learned how to subtly read people without even understanding a word that they were saying, which isn't it perfect that I then went on to study dance and went on to, become an embodiment coach for women? Where, one of my greatest gifts is that I can actually, read somebody's body language like this, because that's really what I had to do from very young on, right? And so another thing that's really stuck out to me in, my personal evolution and my life story is that I actually busted so many limiting beliefs and impositions of society on what your life is supposed to look like, what your life is supposed to run like, what you have to do in order to fit in, or in order to make a living, or in order to have a friend circle, in order to have a relationship. Like, all of these myths, I was very often also one of the first in my circles to bust them. So one of the first ones really that came through was, studying. My parents didn't study. My mom didn't even, both of my parents didn't even have secondary school grades. So even from the family that I'm from, there was only one single person who went on to study in the previous generation, right? So to go study was a huge thing in my family. It was like this big prize to win, right? So here I go, finishing my secondary school. And then I didn't just want to go study. I actually wanted to go study dance. So can you imagine the shape-shifting, incredible, like, myth that I had to bust. I was the very first person in our family to actually go study an artistic profession, an artistic career, right? And from, the beginning, it didn't look like that would ever be possible for me, let alone study, let alone becoming an artist and having, a very expensive career, like studies for a career that was not even, again, an artistic career. What is it that you hear most people say? Oh, that's not a safe thing to go for. There's no way you will make money doing that. Like, oh, you should definitely opt for something a little safer, right? Like, go study law, go study languages, go study mathematics, right? But a dancer, like, how are you going to make a living? Like, that was like the first thing that I would hear. Like, the minute I had decided I was going to study, people would ask me, like, how are you going to make a living? That's never going to work out. Like, oh my gosh, aren't you scared? And wait, well, how are you going to do that here in Luxembourg, right? Because Luxembourg is quite a small country, and usually people stick around, because they have their friends, they have their family here. So it's a very small community, and people stay, right? They don't want to, look for going abroad or anything like this. It's like they look for career choices where they go study or they do things in order to be able to get a job back in their own country. So at the time, Luxembourg didn't have a lot of funding there was always a lot of investments in art, but most of the artists were from abroad. They were from, different countries, but not from Luxembourg. Like, Luxembourg didn't have that many artists when I decided to go, study dance. So, and then dance as well. Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to come back and like teach at the conservatory? That was really what people asked, because that was what was in their frame of vision, right? So again, like, that was not what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to go get, a normal education and come back to the country and work in this country and, do my life here. And another bust, like myth busting that happened for me, was actually to make a living while doing what I love. Like, those were two things that just didn't fit together. My parents, had jobs with, they literally took that job because they needed to do this, right? They needed to create money. They needed to generate income. And even in all of our family lineage, you would pick a career because your grandparents kind of, gave it over to you, or you picked a career just to make sure that you could make a living every month. So here I go, right? Going off to study, going off to do an artistic career, and hoping that somewhere down the line I'd make a living doing what I love. Like, choosing from love, not from, survival. Choosing from passion and not from security. Choosing from following my instincts, although it didn't look like it would be safe to go there, rather than, choosing what you know to be true and a security safe box that you can come back into. And that's why I also know that when women come to me now and, they tell me, I want to create my business, I want to launch my brand, I want to do this thing that I it's been burning inside of me, and I know what people tell you, because I've been in your position 4 times. Like, in 4 of my chapters in my life, right? I know what it's like to be the first one in your family to choose something that is completely different from what anyone else has done. I know what everybody else is telling you. I know what it's like to be in the golden cage and have people tell you, oh, you're gonna leave the golden cage? Are you sure? Are you sure you're going to leave the golden cage? What's going to happen if you don't come back? Oh my goodness, you might be in the jungle. And what's going to happen in the jungle? You have the big tigers coming at you. I know what it's like to be in a place where everything looks like it's been programmed for you. It should just be an easy piece of cake. And you go like, no, thank you. 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 I will follow my heart. Thank you very much. Right? Like, that's a huge thing. And I know it's huge. And a lot of us are on that exact threshold right here, right now. We are desiring to pick something for the love that we have for it. We have this calling that is pulling us, right? We have this dream that, you know, is tickling us. Like when we wake up in the morning and we go to that job we don't like, and we're daydreaming secretly most of the day about this other life that we could live on the other side of the cage. I know what it's like to be there. And I also know the fears that you have when you actually step outside of the cage and you're like, you know, running in limbo and you're not sure what's going to happen. Because I've lived it multiple times over, right? And I've continuously led myself back into the path that I knew to be true, that I knew was meant for me, that I knew was destined for me, although I didn't know what it would look like, although it wasn't obvious, it didn't get laid into my lap. It just didn't, right? It's something that I picked from an inner guidance system that nobody could tell me how to do it, nor even how to tune in, right? And so even choosing a spiritual career path, which is where I'm now, I'm the first one in our family actually doing this. The only way to actually have had a spiritual career before was to be ordained, right? To be working for a church or to become a priest. So it wasn't even available to me. It wouldn't even have been available to me if I would have been a woman, right? I could not have become a priest. Maybe I could have become a nun. But that was the only way that you could actually access a lifestyle where you tune into your, you know, connection with God and the divine every single day, right? Again, that was, you know, busting a myth, choosing what I loved, making a living out of what I love, and continuing to walk on that lane, right? Whew, I feel like this was such a huge piece of my life already, right? So really, our life purpose, this is why I'm saying it's so enmeshed, it's so connected, it's like in the fabric, it's so close to us, like it's the things that we pick to, like the things we choose to wear every single day, the emotions that we choose to feel every single day, the thoughts, the visions that come meet us every single day. All of that, it's like, you know, it's this fabric, these threads, these silky threads coming through, weaving through the most strange mix of cotton, right? The most mundane, simple fabrics. You have these threads, these silver linings that come through, and you're wondering, where is the silk? And it's like you can't even see it because you're right inside it. This is why when we go seek for our soul's purpose, it cannot just be ordered. It cannot just be decided on. It's something that comes through as a revelation through living your life here on the planet, right? So yeah, so there's more myths. I mean, you know, I was diagnosed, I wasn't actually officially diagnosed with depression, but I know for sure that I was in depression for 3 to 4 years, which is also why I ended up leaving my dance teaching career, because I had no more energy, and that depression came through a toxic relationship dynamic that I was in with myself, first of all, and then it kind of, you know, flared up throughout the partnership with this man that I was in, because I was actually not embodied anymore. Like there was nothing else to give, right? And there was this very crucial, like deeply, deeply moving awakening that suddenly happened and jolted me into the revelation of my soul purpose. And it actually happened in, really, when I look back at it, it happened in the bracket of 40 minutes. 40 minutes of my life. What happened in those 40 minutes of my life was so big that it set off the revelation into my awakening. And I have shivers just going down my spine, because that was the real culminating moment until this very moment happened. I feel like that was really the point in time. That was like the chapter. Like it was like a door that just like this portal just suddenly opened, right? And I closed one chapter of my life. And in that moment, a new chapter began. And when that new chapter began, right, it was like, that was the light bulb switch, like the bling. You know, in the movies, when you have this thing that comes on and then, you know, there's like this light bulb moment, boom, and you hear it, right? And the person stops. There's a stop. There's a very clear stop. There's a pause. There's a breath. And there's the land between breaths, right? Like this portal that suddenly opens and this revelation comes through. And even though that moment didn't feel at all like a revelation at that time, I know today, looking back, that that was a portal through which my soul purpose was handed over to me as a revelation. And that moment was when I decided to have an abortion. And it was the moment that I stepped into the theater of operation. They sedated me. So they put me into, you know, anesthesia. And the whole procedure, I know for sure, it was 40 minutes, because it was 9 o'clock the last time that 9 o'clock in the morning, 9 a.m. in the morning, when I had looked at my phone and I went up to get changed and I stepped into the waiting room and, you know, I had to, you know, put all my things inside a room. And then they led me into the operation theater. And all I remember was, you know, the lights went like super bright in my eyes. I had, you know, they probably injected something, or they put these fumes, you know, this ethery fume on me. So I basically went into anesthesia, and all I remember was coming back on my chair, and my body was shaking. I remember my whole body was shaking and shivering, as if I, you know, as if I had just gone through a snowstorm. That's how my body felt. Like I was shaking. My whole body was just trembling. And all I remember was, what happened? Like, where did I go? And I just remember looking at my phone, and it was 9:40. So those two very crucial moments, they're like engraved in my brain. I will never forget that moment when, you know, I walked in. I still even remember there was this lovely nurse, and she was, you know, really sweet to me, and she was asking, how are you doing? And she kind of said, oh my gosh, you smell amazing. Like, you know, and I said, yeah, I use essential oils to just calm me down, because it was like nerve-wracked. Like I had so much anxiety. And I remember there was this other woman who was also waiting. And she was just crying, like she had she was having a really hard time with this moment. Like I was feeling really serene, although inside I was just really anxious. And I remember even sharing essential oils with her, and we had this really lovely conversation together. And, you know, then it was like doomsday moment, you know, now is the time to go in. And now that I look back, I know that that moment was the moment where my awakening really hit home, because I had done some spiritual work before. I was already conscious on a certain level, but I had not had the embodiment yet. So, you know, that moment was really like, it marks actually the end of the chapter of my Dark Night of the Soul, because I had worked with a psychotherapist just before, and that moment really was that moment, that moment was the moment when I came back into my body. I came back into my life after this incredibly difficult decision that I, by the way, took pretty much on my own. I just had, maybe one or two other people that I shared this situation with. And when I returned back into my body, something was going to happen that it almost like makes me cry, because I did not expect that would be the moment of, pure transition. It's like in that moment, what happened in those 40 minutes is that it's as if my old self died. It went into the light and it came back into my body. And it was almost like a decision to choose life again. And this initiation of having an abortion, I mean, so many women go through this. I don't know if other women have this experience. Like, I know for sure that for me, that experience was such a sacred experience, because I was connected with the spirit of the baby before doing this. And all I kept hearing was, he just kept, like, it was a boy. Like, I felt the masculine energy of the spirit baby. I've never told this in public. I've told this one time in my Spirit Babies Masterclass. That's when, and some people, but I've never told it in this exact, like, social media, open public with a public post. I have never spoken about this in public in this way. But what happened was that the spirit of the baby kind of, came to me, and I felt the connection. I felt the warmth. I felt so much love from this spirit. It was just beyond. And all I kept hearing from him was, this is not, he is not my real dad. Like, and I said, yeah, well, maybe you can come back. Like, maybe we'll kind of figure it out. And he was very clear, like, he's not my real dad. Like, I'm here to, like, for your guidance. Like, I'm not here to stay. I am not a baby to stay. I'm not one of those spirit babies to stay. And I know this might sound completely crazy for anyone who's not connected with spirituality and they have no idea how this works. But for me, it was so clear that this spirit baby did not come to stay. This spirit baby came to awaken something in me. This is why I say that real revelation of my soul purpose happened in 40 minutes of my life. Because it was that time that, physically this spirit baby got severed off of my body, and it's almost as if there was a discharge of energy. So, the spirit baby, like, took a part of my soul, right, with him, and, like, downloaded a new fraction of my soul inside of that human body that was lying there in the operation theater. And when I woke up in the recovery room, I just remember looking at my phone and being totally confused, and that shaking of the body. I now know what actually was happening was the calibration of the soul body was entering the physical plane, and that's why the shaking was occurring, right? And from then, things just started to go super fast. Like, within 2 months, out of the blue, we broke up with this partner. Then that same year, this was 2016, that same year, I ended up living completely on my own and, continued to do dance. But I just kept hearing this thing, like, you're going to quit your dance career. We're going to go on a world trip. I was just hearing all these messages. So within that year, I decided that I was just going to do small trips here and there because I felt that I wanted to travel. Then suddenly, a year later, I go into Santorini, to actually celebrate and honor this experience that I had of an abortion. went into Santorini, started having visions of women leaping off cliffs, and then, you know, with me, like me leaping, seeing other women leaping after me, and then instead of falling down, we would grow wings and we would fly. And I would really, like, I was receiving all these visions and all these messages that made no sense to me. I mean, I was a dance teacher, I was a dancer. That was all I wanted. I wanted to dance. That was my biggest dream, was to dance on stages and to share dance with the world, right? And to hear that I'm going to quit my dance teaching career, like, can you imagine? Like, that to me was one of the most frightening moments of my life, because I did not expect this. It made no sense whatsoever, right? And that, from that point, like, I then ended up, you know, leaving London. I ended up quitting my career of dance because there was some contracts that were coming to a close, and it was that moment that I had to leave. And then I left on this world trip with £600 in my account, only having 2 tickets. I've told this story many other times before, like, to the point where I even had to trust that having no money would still get me around the world somehow. And I received so much medicine and so many miracles. Like, everything just sped up from that moment in time. After those 40 minutes where that portal opened and it closed again, it's like my life had a reset. It started all over again. It marked the end of my depression. It marked the ending of my darkest night of the soul that I've had, right? It marked the end of that relationship. It marked the end of so many things. And one of the things that really transpired from this was that I learned to say no to things that did not feel in alignment for me. There was just this inner guidance, this trust in knowing what is right for me, and stopping to, you know, beat around the bush. It was just so pristine. And I believe that it really happened in that moment. It was a revelation, but the truth is that revelation got prepared long before, very long before, right? Because what I was really experiencing was a reset of my whole life, a reset of my energy, a reset of my emotional intelligence, a reset of my mindset, a reset on a physiological level where, you know, I was pregnant and then suddenly I wasn't anymore. Like, the impact that that had on my body, to suddenly, instead of creating life through a baby, I started to create my life. And I did not expect this. So truly, our soul purpose is so deep. It's so profound that we cannot order it like we order a book on Amazon. Our soul purpose gets revealed to us when we are ready to say yes to the life that is really meant for us, right? Not the life that, you know, we choose because we want to play safe. Not the life we choose because it looks good on paper. Not the life we choose because, you know, it's our dreams coming true. Because there I was, you know, being inside a life that I had always wanted to live. And yet, there was something else coming through. And all of the choices that I had made until that very moment in time were necessary for me to actually be prepared to receive the revelation of my life. And so when I really look back now, like, that expertise, if you will, that I can now put on paper, like that's my expertise, really comes from the lived, embodied experience. And that is something that we cannot force. We cannot push it. We cannot shove it. We cannot try to bring it in earlier, because just like birth, it happens when the body is ready. It doesn't happen because your doctor told you that that's the date you are due. The birth of your soul purpose will come when you are ripe. Not only to have the contraction phases, but also to lead all of it, right? To lead the full process, right? So when I look back now, like the birth of Lizzie Butterfly, like the transformational coach, it didn't come in 2016 in that time frame. Like that 40 minutes of my life was just the moment, the symbolical moment of the reset. However, what transpired afterwards, the aftermath of this, right? Which I feel is still happening now, you know, as I'm channeling and writing my book, as I'm channeling and putting down a certification process for this method of, you know, leading yourself through the death medicine of your own life, right? Using dance, right? Because even with dance, like, yes, I did choose a dancer career, and yes, I did go for what I wanted to do and what I loved to do. But the truth is, dance had not had its way with me yet. Dance had not had its way with me yet. It needed me and my body to go and put my bum bum in Hawaii and witness a hula dancer, to receive the revelation that until that very moment I had never danced. In my whole life, I had never danced until that moment I witnessed a hula dancer live in the room. Can you imagine that for over 25, 30 years of my life, I had learned the technique of dance, right? Ballet, jazz, hip hop, contemporary, salsa, samba, you name it, all the styles. I had explored all of them. But until that very moment that I traveled to Hawaii and I saw a hula dancer doing her art, I understood that I had never, ever danced in my life before. And when I met that hula dancer, she told me her story. This is just gonna make me, this is like a bawling moment cry. When she told me her story, that she was a young girl. She was a young girl and she was dancing the hula. It was the best thing she loved to do. Like every Saturday she would, you know, her mom would take her to that hula dance class and she received a revelation and she loved dance. And there was that one time, I can't remember what the story was, but I just know that, you know, their financial situation changed all of a sudden and she, like, the mother couldn't afford the dance classes anymore. And she just said to her, look, I'm really sorry, but you cannot go to dance for a while now because we have to sort things out financially. She was 4 or 5, maybe 6 years old, and for a few months she couldn't dance anymore. And it broke her heart, and she would cry every day because she just wanted to go back to the hula dance classes. And then finally, when she, you know, and this is why she still dances today. Like, I know that she still dances. She's an amazing dancer. Like, her experience really touched me so deeply, because at that time it felt like dance just, you know, it fell apart with dance. I couldn't figure it out anymore. Like, I just came to a point in my life where even dancing, it didn't mean anything anymore to me, right? And when I saw her dancing, like, I had tears just streaming down my face, because I realized that I had been moving all my life. I had been dancing all my life, but I had never met the depth in the embodiment, right? And that was the key that she offered to me by just dancing. And by telling me her story, that when she went back into hula dancing, she knew that she was going to become a hula dancer, right? And so throughout that year, when I was traveling the world, I made a pact with myself that I would never, ever force myself to dance unless I really wanted it, right? Again, saying no to what is not in alignment and saying yes to what is. Right? And so I had to let go of dance. This is why I said, like, I didn't even know yet the way that dance had with me, because dance did not have, had not had its way with me. Right? It was in that moment when I stopped dancing and I stopped pushing and I stopped performing and I stopped, right, to dance for the sake of dancing and stop to dance to entertain and please everybody else, right? And I really positioned dance in the field of sacredness. I will only use it. I will only take it. I will only say yes to dance when dance wants to dance with me. And that's when I realized that every single thing that I had been projecting into my dance was amplifying in my life. So all the years before, all the things, you know, like that crazy looping mind that comes in when you know, your dance teacher is telling you, tuck it in and do this and lift your leg and try to stretch more and do this and this, like this constant like manipulation of your physical body, pushing you into some kind of shape, whether your body wants to go there or not, whether your body desires to be there or not. Pushing presence. We cannot ever push presence. It's just not possible, right? So all that pushing energy and all that forcing energy and all that mental overload and trying to be perfect and trying to please and trying to, you know, hold the line and trying to be the mold and the perfection, all of that was being amplified in my life. And I didn't even know. I had no idea. I had no idea that dance was an amplification tool. I had no idea that dance was the way through which my life's purpose was going to be channeled through me. I had no idea that dance was the way that spirit, you know, brought me in to fulfill my life's destiny. And I wasn't using my dance yet as a tool of elevation and ascension. Right? I was using it to perform. I was using it to please the eye. I was using it to, you know, get some kind of kick or validation out of it. So I fully understand when we go through a death portal, when we have something in our hands and we're like, this is the golden grail. This is the thing that I want. This is the thing that lights me up. And to have it disintegrate inside of your hand because it's actually just ego. Your sole purpose will purify your ego to the point where you feel like it burns you. It rips you apart. It's like this Kali goddess coming in and eating her own children because she will not tolerate anything that is not in alignment with the highest forces of creation and creativity, right? So I had to learn to receive my soul purpose and have it actually land inside of my body, inside of my life, and be ready for it. And for this, I had to go on a journey of multiple initiations, right? Because our soul purpose is so enmeshed in all that we do that when it is revealed to us, it will make you cry. It will have its way with you. It will bust all the myths that you thought were, necessary, and it will break your heart wide open. It will break your heart wide open. Right? So all of this, right, to tell you, yes, I'm a feminine embodiment coach, I'm a transformational leader, that's the thing that I do on paper, but really there's an embodiment that I can vouch for. And this is really, when your soul purpose comes through, you become the expert, not because you studied for it. And yes, of course, all of that baggage and, the understanding of the body and how anatomy works and how your posture is set up, all of these things, I will use them now still. This is stuff that I've learned on my way here. But what really moves the needle on my life's path right now isn't the things that I picked up because I accumulated knowledge in my mind. It's the embodiment where I sweat, like it just going through all of my pores, like it comes out of my eyes, like the tears, the blood, the heart. It's all of it. Like it's such a big chunk of fabric. It's such a thick honey, right? Like there's no doubt. Like if you want to go on a transformational journey, heck yes, we can go there. But what will take you and us, like what will take both of us there, isn't what I know in my mind. It's how I feel life. So when our soul purpose comes to us, it blesses the world, not because of the knowledge we have accumulated in our minds, and not because of the books we read and the seminars we've taken, or, the certifications we've gone on and the studies, and all these things are great. Yes, keep it all. But that's not what moves. That's not what moves the world. What moves the world is you being so in tune and understanding, like, that is my soul purpose because I feel it. It's in my bones, it's in my gut, it's in every single cell of me. It's like so enmeshed inside of my flesh and like in my whole fabric and tapestry of humanity and divinity all in one, like this oneness, pure oneness with your physical and your spiritual and everything, every layer in between. That is the transformational piece of your soul purpose. And your soul purpose comes in to heal and mend every single part of you that has, disintegrated and, fallen apart through this ego perspective and trying to keep it safe and trying to, hold the field in all the cages and ways that you think are necessary. It will come in and purify every single piece of that. So our soul purpose is a soul purpose because it gives you the purpose of why your soul decided to incarnate in this exact human body, into this exact family constellation, into this exact society, into the countries you visited, into the things you create every single day, and the way you wake up, the way you go to sleep. Like, your soul purpose has a calibration that only you can carry in this very unique way, right? So when I say that my medicine and, you know, the things that I process with women and with clients and with friends and clients and students and practitioners, we cause a ripple effect of transgenerational healing, because very often we come in with, like, those people who work with me, they come in with that same fabric, that same texture of being the one, the first one to do things differently. So this transgenerational healing occurs not only because we're the first one, but because we actually accept that we will be the first one, and we will not die this time, and we will not break this time, and we will not go bankrupt this time, and we will not excuse me, we will not, you know, fail and break apart this time, but we are the one where the abuse, the suffering, the pain stops. It actually stops. It comes to a standstill. So, you know, I believe that the way that our soul purpose comes in as a revelation, like, you know, this 40-minute portal that I talked to you about, we actually create that 40-minute portal. We create it for our whole lineage, right? So the reason why we incarnated on this planet right here, right now, is because all of us are creating this 40-minute, you know, probably, you know, X years that you will live within that bracket that it will take you. We create that portal, and from then, when the portal closes, the generational evolution is never, ever, 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 ever going to be the same. Do you understand? Like, your soul purpose, when you fully receive and embody and allow your soul purpose to have its way with you, what actually happens is that you create this gap through which this energetic soul exchange is taking place, right? That repositions things on a grid level. So now it's not just in one single life, but it's on a grid level. We open this portal, right? This soul consciousness is pouring through, it's gushing forth, it's like just like exploding, right? But having all these multiple experiences, it's happening because when that portal closes, when you go back into the afterlife, the generational healing will have been completed on this planet in order to serve the higher purpose of new humanity, of the new earth coming through. Do you understand this? Take a deep breath in. So there's a revelation through which our soul purpose comes through in our own lives. So for me, it was that 40 minutes when I walked into the operation theater and I had an abortion, and I walked back into my life, and my life was never the same again. It's like I chose life in a completely new way. You are actually doing this for the full generation of humans coming after us, right? We have been selected and positioned into this earthly grid in order to create and hold the doors open until that part of healing and integration has been completed, so that when this part in healing integration portal closes, life on the planet will never, ever, 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 ever be the same again. And this is a big thing. This is very big. And this is why a lot of us are also choosing to live our soul purpose in the open space, in the public field, where we can be seen and witnessed, where we can be found, where we can be reached, where people can find and read our message. Because we're a part of all of this grid, you remember? We're not alone here. There's trillions of thousands of us. And so it's important for us to have and prepare and coax this awakening through our own lives, where we realize all the things that, you might have a completely different coding from me anyway, right? For me, it was really those things that are not in alignment we can no longer do. We've got to go for the thing that we desire. We got to go for our passion, for the way things are right for me. Like that was my codex, right? But you might have a different one. You might have a codex of, I don't know, something completely different. Everyone has a completely different codex. And each of these codexes, joining together as a grid, we become a force field to be reckoned with. Right? This is also why being out in the public space, so we can be seen and we can be witnessed and we can connect this collective grid, is so important, because we need to know that we're not the only ones going through this. We need to know, right? That is our safety field. It's that is what grounds us into our purpose and grounds us into our collective purpose. Right? There's multiple groups, in the spiritual fields, we could talk for hours about this, but there's multiple soul families and multiple streams of consciousness that decide often to incarnate on the planet at the same time, right? Or at particular moments in time. And so I know for a fact that, my lineage is definitely connected with, the soul grids of indigo souls, indigo children, right? With, transitions into crystal light bodies, transitioning, and bringing forth the rainbow children, bringing forth the gold children, right? The diamond children, all of these different codings of light. But the thing is, deeply inside of our lives, it is no mistake that you were born into the exact family constellation you were born into. It is no mistake that you were born in a specific gender, that you were born, with a specific cultural background, with your skin tone, every single thing. It's been programmed, because you're one of them who is going to change and open the field, open that portal of intergenerational healing for humanity, not just for your collective consciousness and your constellation, your family constellation, not just for your soul constellation. This is a global scale experience, right? So keep transitioning, keep doing the work, keep doing the freaking work, right? I did 6 years of spiritual work until I was even able to come to a place where I would choose this abortion with having had contact with my spirit baby. That was the preparation. All the meditations I did that I thought, oh my gosh, I cannot even do this. Not even for 5 minutes sitting down. Are you kidding me? All those things, the times when I cried, the times when I thought my life sucked, and the times when I fell into depression, the toxic relationship dynamics, all of it, it was all a preparation so that I could take this one decision in my life and understand the impact it would have, not only the moment before, not only the moment during, but also all the moments after, when I would recall that one decision that I made where I knew that I was guided from a different force field, not just my own thinking mind. Because until that very moment, all of the operations that happened pretty much in my life were done in order to please someone else, in order to comply with somebody else's thoughts, right? Somebody else's judgment, somebody else's opinion, somebody else's, like, even though I've chosen a dance career, it still was to somewhere please someone in the line. And that one decision I took, not because I was trying to please anyone, because as obvious it is that most people feel highly triggered with a woman choosing an abortion, but I was actually, there was something in me that guided me into that decision. That was, let's say it was a supernatural guidance. It's not something that is logical, that can be done on this third dimensional plane. No. Right? So that work is a preparation, that consciousness work, that awakening work, that awareness work of knowing why you do what you do, why people behave the way they behave. What is it that is actually really guiding you? And it will come. It will come because it is predestined. If you're listening still now, you are one of us. Right? You might not know why the heck you're doing what you're doing, and you might not know what the heck you're supposed to do. But the truth is, you're here. And your life is opening up a portal of transgenerational healing for the life that is going to come on the planet after us. And so you must remember that small revelation that might come to you in the duration of 40 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever that is, your whole life is actually stretching and opening up these two doors through which light, code, and consciousness are being, are being super speedily downloaded on the planet right now. So your whole life is a bracket of a soul purpose revelation. So relax. Take it easy. Live your life. Do what you need to do. You're one of us. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being in my life, for spending this time together. I want you to know that whether we have met, I know Tim is here, I've met you in person, one of my dear friends, and Giancarlo's tuned in, and maybe there's people who are watching me that I know personally. Whether I know you personally or we've just come across like literally 5 minutes ago, I just want you to know that I honor and respect and appreciate the way you lead your life so much, and that your existence on the planet really matters. And I am so glad that you are here, and that, our souls kind of went wink wink because it is very special. And we don't think sometimes that how special it is to actually be incarnated on the planet right here, right now. So we have to play this remembrance game with each other and really tune in and go, hey, do you remember? Yeah, I've got you. Okay, I've got you too. We've got to play on that field. All right, my dear. Sending you so much love. Have a beautiful day or evening or afternoon, wherever you are. I love you. Aw, thank you for being you, Timothy. I love you so much. Have a beautiful day. And we'll catch up soon. I shall hope. We will catch up soon. Talk soon.